Welcome back to Discovering Home. I'm your host, Carla Monterrosa, a wife, mom, and coach for women who desire a life that aligns with what matters most, their faith, family, and their God-given purpose. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Make sure you follow the show as I post new episodes weekly on Wednesdays. On today's episode, I want to share something that's been on my mind for a while. Recently, I was sitting around a table with a group of teenage girls. We were having a conversation about the future, and they were each sharing the careers they were interested in pursuing. And I asked a simple follow-up question. Is anyone looking forward to being a mom? And to my surprise, one of these bright young women said, if I was just going to be a mom, I don't think I would try so hard. Isn't it interesting how one small word can change the meaning of everything? That word, just. When you look at how it's defined, it means things like only, merely, no more than, or barely. It reduces the importance, shrinks the significance, and lowers the perceived value of whatever comes after it. It quietly reframes motherhood in a negative way, from something weighty and meaningful into something that sounds small, simple, or unimpressive. And the truth is, that word doesn't just affect how others hear us, it affects how we see ourselves too. It often softens our identity and downplays our contribution. We use it when we feel unsure, when we feel the need to justify ourselves, or when we've internalized the belief that this role isn't as valuable as others. It minimizes something that is actually incredibly significant. And that belief doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a culture that has elevated certain paths while quietly diminishing others. But when we begin to believe that motherhood is something small, something that doesn't require preparation, we begin to undervalue not only the role, but the women who step into it. But that belief didn't come from nowhere. It reflects a broader message we've been surrounded by, that value is tied to income, that success is measured by what we achieve outside the home, and that importance is based on visibility. And so anything centered in the home, especially motherhood, gets quietly diminished or pushed aside. But when you remove that one word, everything changes. I'm a mom. See, it lands differently. It carries more weight, influence, and responsibility. It implies formation and legacy. We are shaping lives, discipling hearts, building families, and influencing generations. In a recent episode of a show rated for ages 14 and up, I heard a line that really stayed with me. A young man said to his friend, "He likes you. He even said you're wifey material." And the young woman responded, "Well, that's demeaning." And I just remember thinking, this is how the narrative is being shaped. Not always loudly, but subtly and consistently through small comments like that. I paused the show and had a conversation with my girls about that because it's important to me that they understand that there is intention behind the messaging in the media that we consume. I try to watch things with my girls to make sure that the messaging isn't something crazy. I've found that truly valuable, just sitting with them and watching together, because then I can spot things like that and speak truth over the lie before they are just believing it. Comments like that begin to redefine how people see marriage and family life, and even how young women begin to view motherhood. So when you pair that phrase with things like, I'm just a mom, or if I was just going to be a mom, you start to see the connection. There is a quiet message being repeated over and over again that these roles are less than, limiting, unworthy, something you settle for instead of something you value and prepare for. That could not be further from reality. Motherhood and building a family is some of the most influential, shaping, and enduring work there is. The culture is very loud and very clear in its messaging about ambition, success, and the girl boss mentality. And if we don't intentionally speak a different message, if we don't model it, if we don't affirm it, then the culture will continue to define it for the next generation. When you really begin to look at what it takes to run a home well, you are managing so much more than people realize. You're managing the rhythm of your home, the emotional climate of your family, and often stewarding energy, time, emotions, and resources all at once. You're coordinating schedules, appointments, activities, church, homeschool, daily responsibilities, and there are moments when everything overlaps. One child needs something, another has to be somewhere else. Dinner still has to be made, and you feel like you're holding everything together in your mind at once. That's coordination, and it takes skill. You're also planning meals, routines, school rhythms, birthdays, holidays, the flow of your days and seasons. Planning is what allows you to live intentionally instead of constantly reacting. You're cooking and meal prepping, nourishing your family, being mindful of your budget, caring for their health. You're nurturing life and tending to what's been placed in your care. It requires patience. It teaches you to think long term because the seeds you plant today, you won't see the results of that right away, but you trust that growth is happening. So when you step back and look at all of this, you realize this is not small work. This is layered, meaningful, skillful work. So you're not just a mom or just a homemaker. You're doing deeply valuable and beautiful work, and the impact will last for generations. Since coming home, some of the areas where I have grown the most have been in home organization, interior decorating, decluttering, gardening, cooking, and stewardship. These were not things that came naturally to me. And when I first came home, I realized pretty quickly that I had a lot to learn. I had spent years in survival mode, just getting by, focusing on my career, doing what I needed to do in the moment, but not necessarily building the systems, the rhythms, and the skills that could create a peaceful, well-functioning home. And that realization was humbling because I think sometimes we assume that we'll just know how to do this, that it will come naturally. But for some of us, it doesn't. It's learned, it's practiced. It's developed over time. But the beautiful thing is we don't have to figure it out alone. There are so many resources available to us now. So many women are sharing their experiences and what they've learned in homemaking, creating content that encourages, equips, and supports other moms. I'm so grateful for the women that are boldly stepping out there and sharing their journeys because I've learned so much through them. They've helped me move from just getting by to truly building a home that feels peaceful, functional, and life-giving. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still refining along the way, but that's all part of the process and the beauty of the journey. So homemaking is not something you just arrive at. It's something you continue to grow into. Sometimes I've asked myself if I knew I was going to one day choose to become a stay-at-home mom, would I have made different choices about my education? And the honest answer is, yeah, probably. I might have chosen something that more directly supported my home life. Maybe culinary school, interior design, child development. Instead, I studied urban studies and planning. I earned a master's in public administration and built a career in public service, management, and leadership. But here's what I've come to understand. While that doesn't directly relate to homemaking, nothing I learned was ever lost. Because even now, as I raise my daughters, as I manage my home, as I coach women walking through their own transitions, I'm still drawing from everything I learned in those years. The way I manage, the way I plan, the way I lead in my home, the way I guide other women, it all came with me. God wastes nothing. No, He redeems it. I've lived the pace of public life and I've lived the intentional, quiet life at home. I understand the tension, the questions, the transition, and because of that, I can speak with a different kind of wisdom. Not in theory, but because I've lived it. And so, if you're a young woman listening, it's wise to prepare. This season of your life where you may have more time, more flexibility, more independence, it's truly a gift. You can devote yourself fully to the Lord, to your education, to building skills, even to building a career if you're a single young woman. Preparing for the life you desire is not wasted, it's wisdom. But I would also encourage you to hold space for the possibility that one day you may feel called to slow down, to raise children, to build a home, to create something beautiful and lasting within your family. And if that day comes, the skills you've been building won't be wasted. They will simply be used differently and woven into a life that reflects what matters most in this season. For those of us who are already raising children, we have a responsibility not just to build our homes, but to shape how our children see the value of home. Because from a very young age, people begin to ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And most of the time, the expected response is a career, a job title, a profession. And there's nothing wrong with that, but what if we're unintentionally teaching them that their value is tied only to what they do outside the home? What if we're not showing them the full picture? Because the truth is, our children do have options. Our daughters have options to become mothers, homemakers, even homeschoolers, to build a life centered on faith, family, and home. And our sons have the opportunity, too, to become men who lead, provide, and support that kind of life, to value a wife who desires to be home, and to see that role as beautiful, honorable, and deeply impactful. So we have to start saying it out loud, and we also have to model it and affirm it with our lives. There's nothing small about raising children. There's nothing insignificant about building a home. This is generational work. It's legacy work. It's kingdom work. So let's make sure that when we talk to our children about their future, we don't just give them one version of success. Let's give them a vision that includes home and family life, that makes space for a life that is slower, intentional, and deeply meaningful. Because at the end of the day, accumulation of wealth and stuff is not what leads to true happiness. One day they may choose to be moms and homemakers, and let's set them up to feel confident in their role and their work. Not confused or worse, ashamed of it, but with the understanding that what they are doing truly matters. And if this is a season where you're feeling that pull toward home, toward slowing down, toward building something more intentional for your family, I want to invite you to take the next step. You can visit my website at carlabmonterosa.com, where I have resources to help you begin this journey. You can take my free quiz, download my guide, or get connected with me through my email list. And if you're looking for more personal support, I also offer coaching for women who are navigating this transition and want clarity, direction, support, and encouragement along the way. You don't have to figure it out alone. I'd love to walk alongside you. Thank you for being here with me today. If this episode encouraged you, I would love for you to share it with a friend or leave a review. It truly does help more women find this message. Until next time, God bless you.